Hello and welcome back to Adventurous Way. Today we are working on plumbing our septic tanks. So yesterday we did most of the electrical work for the pump tank. There's a few little bits we need to do, like adding some sealant and things in there, but generally the wiring is done and it's working. Today we're going to start working on the plumbing. So there are three things that we need to plumb in. The first is we need to add a mushroom vent. So this is a mushroom vent. And the mushroom vent is a vent, an air vent for the pump tank. And the idea is that any build-up of gas in there can vent out, but also the pump, when it runs, will evacuate some liquid from there, so it needs to be able to pull air back in. So for that, we have a mushroom vent. There are two different styles you can use. You can either use a candy cane or a mushroom vent. We're using the mushroom vent style, and it kind of looks a little bit like that. That way up, that kind of setup. And the reason we chose this is because this comes with activated carbon. So that will reduce any odours coming from the tank. In order to install this, it's pretty straightforward. The tank has a number of ports around the outside. So we need to have a piece of 4-inch PVC pipe going from the inside coming out, a 90-degree elbow coming up, and then the mushroom vent goes on top. I think what we're going to do for now is install the piece of pipe and then probably just put a cap temporarily on there rather than actually gluing on the mushroom vent. The reason being just to make sure that as we backfill, if we do damage anything, we don't damage a $60 mushroom vent, we damage a few dollar plastic cap and a bit of pipe. We won't glue the pipe on. Later on we can just take the cap off and then just pop the mushroom vent on. So that's the first thing to install. The second thing we're going to install today, hopefully, is the pipe connecting between the two tanks. And to do that, we've got a couple of things. These baffles here. So we're going to have an outlet baffle from the septic tank. It'll go through the pipe, and an inlet baffle into the pump tank. The baffle coming out, basically what these are is they are, think of them as like T's. You can actually see the shape of it here. The pipe will come across here, and this is just a big empty piece of pipe. And it's really just there to stop that water just flying straight in, splashing, and sort of causing turbidity in the water and turbulence. It really just sort of slows the water as it comes in. The one that comes out of the septic tank will actually have a filter. So it's this white one here. And this will actually be the outlet side of the septic tank. Those two baffles will get installed on either end of that long piece of pipe we have over there, and that will go between the two tanks. So we've built up with sand the space in the middle just to make sure that that's not going to get damaged. It should be well protected there. Once that is all in, we'll put a bit more sand around it, and we are going to insulate over the top with some foam board, kind of a belt and braces given our climate here. The third and final thing we're going to be getting to today, hopefully, is the inlet. So the inlet is how stuff gets into the septic tank in the first place. Long term, obviously, we're going to have stuff coming in from the utility building and from the house. In the short term, we're not going to do that. After some conversation, we've decided we're not going to put that pipe in just yet. We're going to wait until more of the construction work is done. And for the time being, we'll just leave it with essentially a clean out at the septic tank itself. We haven't quite decided whether we're going to put just a 90 on there to bring up to grade with the clean out, or actually put in a Y, which is kind of like, it's like a T fitting, but it's a Y shape. So one will go straight on and the other will come up to grade and then cap the other one off. There's pros and cons to each one. Capping that other one off just means we've got that stub in when we come to it later, and we don't have to cut off that clean out and redo that. Putting the 90 in just means we don't have to worry about the Y just yet, and we don't have to figure out all the details of that. A few details still to work out there, obviously, but in the meantime, we're going to start with a mushroom vent, because that's nice and easy. So I've cut off a small piece of this 4-inch pipe just to show what we're going to do here. This is one of the outlet ports, and this is like a rubberized gasket here. And what we're going to do is cut a circle out of the end here. So then we can have this pipe which will go from the inside and out. So it'll be coming through this rubber gasket. To get it through, we can use some dish soap to make that a bit easier. And then while this is fairly tight around the pipe, and obviously once we pack sand and things around it, that'll be pretty tight anyway, we're going to put a couple of gear clamps around this gasket as well, just around here. And that'll really hold that tight and make sure that there's a really good seal around this pipe. So again, this will be the air vent, the mushroom vent that comes out here and up.
And how deep that pipe needs to go inside?
This one doesn't matter too much. So this one, there's nothing on the end of it. It's just an empty pipe at the end. It's purely for air. There's no liquid going through here. So for that one, we'll just probably make it, I don't know, a foot or so inside, just to make sure it's stable. The other ones are a little bit more important because we need to make sure the filters and the baffles are underneath the risers. This one actually is the least important because this riser is going to be buried. We're not exposing this one above grade. Talking to the septic company, talking to our engineer, there's just no point of having this riser come up to grade because you can easily get to this area from the others. And frankly, the risers are quite expensive. Those two over there, though, we need to make sure those baffles are underneath the riser. So you have to extend the pipe in enough that you can then reach, particularly the one with a filter, so you can then take the filter out and clean it. Make sure it's extended enough to come under the riser. Where was my tape measure? Do you remember?
It was in the electric bag.
Where does the one from the car keep going?
I don't know. I think it still should be in the car.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It's kind of hard to put it in a circle.
Yep. My keys.
You said 4 inches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our mushroom vent assembly is all glued up and we're just going to let that dry for a little while. We cut the vertical to be about 6.5 feet tall. About 2.5 feet of that will be below grade, which leaves about 4 feet above grade. That's taller than we probably want the final thing to be, but we can trim that down later. Once we've got final grade, decide exactly where we want it. While that's drying, we're going to start working on the preparations for this center pipe going across here. And that's going to have this filter is going to be the outlet on the septic tank side. So that will go on that side there. This filter is removable. So that pulls out the top. And then there's a little stop ball in the bottom that will float up and seal that off while you're cleaning the filter, which is one of the periodic maintenance things to do. So this filter is, like I say, removable, which means that it needs to be underneath that riser so that you can take the riser off and you can reach down and pull this out. One of the things that was recommended to us by our septic company, because the risers are 18 inches long, which is fairly long, they've recommended this handle, which will make it a little bit easier to reach in and pull this filter out. All right, the mushroom vent is in. We've got that installed here. Got the gear clamps on the bottom holding that in place. We're now working on the pipe that's going to go between the two tanks. So it's important here to make sure, like we said earlier, that the baffles are in the right place. So we measured out a distance in on either side that we wanted the baffles to be, measure the distance between the two tanks, and then we have cut a piece of pipe for the right length. That's about 105 inches long. There is a drop, so I don't know how well this is coming across on camera, but that does drop down here. So from high to low. Diana is then cutting out the rubber gasket here on the pump tank inlet port, and we'll do the same here on the septic tank outlet port. We're then going to feed the pipe in that way and then back across between the two. Once it's in, we'll climb inside each of the tanks in turn and install the baffles. Okay.
Okay.
Then can you pass me the dish soap?
Yep. Wait, it's against.
There we go.
Yep. Okay, more? Yep.
fun one, the primer. Everybody's favourite. So nobody ever. Can I trade you this for a paper towel?
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pain because it's got that inner fitting as well. But I've got a good joint on there. I managed to get some primer and some glue into that inner female fitting, which wasn't easy. And I've been kind of battling this whole thing because the brush on my primer and my glue is a little small. Technically it's okay for this size of pipe, but using such a small brush on 4-inch pipe isn't super quick and easy, but actually works out in my favour, getting some into that gap on there. If I'd been using the big brush like I was using for the electrical conduit, I wouldn't have had a chance there. But yeah, well, that is now installed. So let me pass you these things up. The primer's just leaking a little bit, so be careful with that one.
Okay.
So there's the primer, that is leaking, so it's wet on top, just careful. And there's the cleaner, paper towel's dirty. And then there's the cement, and then if you can pass me the red ball. So this red ball is a float, so this goes up inside the bottom of here. Now remember that when this tank is up and running, the level will sit basically chest height on me right now. It'll be just below the height of this outlet pipe. If it's any higher, it'll drain out. And there's nowhere else for the liquid to go other than that way. So the liquid height is always going to be about here. Well, this filter needs changing. And if you were changing the filter when more liquid came in, it would get out of here without being filtered. And you do not want things in the other tank that haven't been through the filter. You really want just liquid for the pump in the other tank because it's going to get sent up to the leach field. So this ball goes in the bottom of here. And when the filter is in, it presses this ball down out of the way so that water can, or liquid can get up into the filter. But when you pull the filter out the top, the ball rises up like a float and blocks anything else from getting up towards where the filter was. So it's just a very simple mechanism to make sure that the filter has to be in order for anything to leave here. So maybe you can see it down the tube there, but if it were pressed down right now, it'd be at the bottom, and then when the filter comes out, liquid will press that up, sealing off this tube from anything else. So the last thing I'll take is the filter, please, the blue filter. So this goes in, I think that way around. There we go. So that holds the ball down, but when you take that out, the ball rises up, press that back down, and the ball is pushed out of the way. So that is the filter outlet baffle done. We're gonna have a little handle that goes on here that will allow us to pull this filter out when it needs cleaning, which you do when you regularly inspect the tank anyway. That's why it's important that this came in a decent distance from the edge here so that you can still get this out. The question now is, have I left myself enough space to get the ladder in here and climb back out?
Or I will leave it there forever.
Well, you'll leave me here forever. I actually think this is going to be very tight. If it is, I'll just get out the other one, but I'll need you to open it up for me. Right, let's give this a go. This is a smaller riser. I think this is 24-inch diameter versus the other one over there is 30-inch. And it is very tight.
Yeah, not touching it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I actually might have to stay here. There we go.
I found this on the web.
It was so tight going down that I couldn't put my foot down past this section here. It was too tight to get my foot down. So I just had to hold on to the top and just slide down it. Hopefully.
The doors are installed on Septic.
I can get out. There we go. Okay, I'm really happy with that install. All joking aside, that filter is in.
So the second part is done. So what should we do next?
So we were going to do the inlet to the septic tank now. I don't think we will for two reasons. First is we don't have enough pipe. I was hoping we're going to have a little bit more pipe, but because we decided to go a little tall on the mushroom vent, we actually don't have quite enough. The longest piece we've got is just down there, and it's just not quite long enough for the inlet pipe. The second reason is we've spoken to our engineer. Coming out of the inlet, so if you imagine it in sort of in reverse order, from the inlet we're going to have two Y fittings. One Y fitting will split between the utility building, which will be on the main line, because that's the direction it's facing, and the house, which will be on the Y45. The second Y will be on the main line and then going vertical up to a clean out. And so the question was, which way round should we have those? Should we have the Y to the house and utility closer to the inlet, or the clean out one closer to the inlet? And his suggestion is to have the Y that splits to the house and the main line to the utility, have that one first and closest to the inlet, and then the one with the clean out. That means we can't install the other one today because we don't have that second Y, and that needs to be between the two. So we're going to pick up that second Y tomorrow, I think, and install that, as well as some more pipe, and then we can finish that off. So I think what we'll do for now is get some more sand over here. We had our sand delivery last night, so we've got another truckload of sand brought along. We'll bring some more of that over here, get this pipe at least covered up, and then probably, I don't know, see how we're getting on for time today. This is going to get covered with a piece of foam insulation board as well, so we may do that today, or we may do that later. But either way, I want to get this covered up with sand, just so it's a little bit better protected. We'll also put some sand around the mushroom vent vertical that we installed, just so that's held vertical and that's not going to knock around in the wind or anything else.
We put the sand over the pipe section in the middle, and it's getting close to 5 o'clock, so we'll call it a day today and we'll continue tomorrow.